Games is part of a whole bunch of projects that the sort of new media branch of the film festival, TIFF, is doing. And they did a lot of things with the Hand-Eye Society, which is a sort of arts and culture video game collective organization, which I'm one of the board members for. And I ran, I should say who I am. I'm Miguel Sternberg from the Hand-Eye Society and half of Spooky Squid Games, which is a small indie game studio here in the city. So I ran Comics vs. Games, which was a jam and art show. What we did was we got 5 really talented artists and 5 really talented video game creators and had them work together in small teams for 3 months to make 5 games, which you can play in the room over there. And if you haven't yet, you really should go and play them. There's a whole bunch of other aspects of it. We showed it over the week at Magic Pony, an art gallery here in the city. And I'm going to show a trailer that actually shows some of the games. Then I'm going to have the panelists introduce themselves. Time that a lot of the people who worked on the games have had a chance to talk to each other. So I want to do this sort of informally. So if you guys want to ask each other questions as this is going and talk back and forth, I want this to be informal. A chance to sort of to do something in the spirit of the project itself and talk between game developers and comic artists. So yeah, if each of you could introduce yourself, talk about what the game was that you worked on, and also what you're best known for, whether it's a video game or a comic. Starting with Christine here.
I'm Christine Love. I'm a game developer and writer. I made the mysterious Aphroditus, which is sort of turn-based Victorian-era fighting game. And I don't know if I'm well known for anything, but if it is, it's for making video games with lots and lots of words in them.
Could you maybe name one of them?
Sure. Analog: A Hate Story is my latest, which is all about Korean feminism in space.
It's the first visual novel on Steam, guys. That's a big deal. Anyway.
And who are you?
And I'm Damian Sommer. I am not known for anything important yet. I made the Yawhg with Emily Carroll, and it's basically the evil Yawhg is coming, and you have 6 weeks to just do whatever while you're waiting for it to come. And a lot of random weird stuff happens.
So it's a slacker sim?
It's not a slacker sim. You just like, it's not exactly clear what you're supposed to do, and there really isn't like anything you can do except wait for it. So you just kind of wait for it and do random things, and a lot of weird stuff happens in the town while you're just waiting for this horrible thing to come and destroy your life. What I'm best known for, I guess, is a game about game literacy, which got a lot of plays, but not as significant, like as much as like people in the room would know me for. Yeah, that's it.
Like I said, my name is Andy Belanger. I helped design Black Church with Miguel, who is a genius. Let's just say he can design video games a lot faster than we can draw comics. I'm a comic book artist. I'm the artist on Kill Shakespeare. I did a series for DC Comics, Friday the 13th, and Ball of Awesome, and I'm doing the Black Church comic book at the same time.
Excellent.
I'm Slice Thumb Manale, Gimp Thumb, Goo Thumb Manale here. It's like Smurf Hat Thumb Manale, actually.
I can't stop staring at it. It looks like a condom.
It's like gauze condom Manale.
We were all thinking that.
It's like a double gauze condom they put on it. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
It's true.
I work on a lot of comics and kids comics done comics for Nickelodeon and Toronto Star. Did a web comic and a print comic called Super Slackers for the Toronto Star. I do monthly comics in Owl and Chickadee magazine, I do Chicken D for
Chickadee.
Chickadee. And I worked on a game called We're No Angels with a games developer named Jamie Fristrom, who's not here today because he's in America. And yeah, I don't know. We'll get back to it.
Do you want to describe what it's about?
I'll get to it.
Okay.
I'm John Martz. I am an illustrator and cartoonist here in Toronto. I have a webcomic called Machine Gum, and I do some sort of op art comics for the Globe and Mail. And I made a game with an Australian game developer named Farbs called Cumulo Nimblers, which is sort of like a Mario Brothers meets pinball.
With no ending.
With no ending.
So one thing I'm curious about is, do all of you both play games and read comics, or some of you just like one medium or the other? And sort of what is the stuff? If you're a comic artist, what are the games you play? And if you're a game maker, what are the comics you read?
I play a lot of video games. I'm one of these. If I can shoot something, I'm really happy. So I have a lot of friends where we get together and play Black Ops. And unfortunately, the more you drink with your friends while you play Black Ops, the worse you get online, unfortunately. But that's one of the games. And then Mass Effect, I've been getting into that as well. And my biggest favorite was Red Dead Redemption that came out. That was a lot of fun. I had never played a lot of the sort of games that we've been developing here, a lot of sort of the old school stuff. But now I'm like addicted to it. So this was like the coolest thing ever.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
On the comic side, I read, I don't know, a lot, I guess a lot, but not like as much as you guys probably do. Well,
What does that mean? Yeah.
I read some comics,
Okay.
more than the average population maybe, but people who come to TCAF would probably read more than me.
Okay.
Is what I'm saying. Anyway, like I read Snow by Benjamin Rivers. I really liked, and Paying for It by Chester Brown. I'm now like obsessed with prostitutes. Like I look, like I read every like article. I look.
You
up
know
all
this is
these-
going on the
I think
internet,
there's-
right?
I
Yeah,
think
no, I'm aware it's going on the internet.
I'm pretty sure
obs-
that if you're obsessed with prostitutes and you somehow want to make something of it, the government will give you money
No, okay.
to sleep with them
I'm not-
and then make
I'm
a
not-
research
I'm
project.
not
I'm sure it's
actually-
possible.
Like interested in that. I'm more interested in their stories. I find that really like I don't know.
I don't think I can top that, so I'm just going to head out of the panel then. I want to follow that.
I just got a text from a friend saying, "What are you doing right now?" I'm really tempted to text back. I'm just chairing a panel.
Yeah.
What's the guess?
What games?
Oh,
What
games.
games?
We're talking about games. Games. I'm kind of the opposite. I'm not really a big game guy. I mean, I've got my Wii at home, and I've got like an old GameCube, but I'm like a Mario guy. I'm like all about games where you can. I used to be always accused of, in my life and in everything I do, my friends call it fighting with the knife. And this describes me as a person. So this describes me as a person. All my friends say I'm always fighting with the knife, and I'm like, because this started when I would play Resident Evil back in the day, and I would wait for one of my friends to get really far into the game because I wasn't very good at it, and then I'd jump in at like level 7. And I'd just load up with a whole bunch of healing herbs and healing spray and just the knife and see how far I could get. And it would drive my roommates crazy. They'd be like, "Well, you're never going to finish the game like that, Manale." And I'm like, "No, I want to see how far I can get with the knife." Like, but that's not the game. You're not. And so I would like to find mini games within the game that I invented myself. So I don't know. That's my game thing.
That's a good way to be.
Fighting with the knife?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Not today.
No.
But you've been sidetracked somehow.
Yeah.
Your mind was elsewhere.
John.
Yeah, I'm kind of a casual gamer. I grew up playing like NES and Sierra point and click adventures, so that's sort of my favorite kind of game. So I have a PS3, but I don't play it all that often because the 3D games I'm not all that engrossed with. But a game came out maybe 2 years ago called Machinarium. It's a point and click adventure, and it's my favorite game
Oh, yeah.
ever.
Yeah, no,
and it's
that's-
beautiful. And if you like comics and games, go get it. I think it's really cheap now.
And Botanicula they just released as well, which is also awesome.
Can everyone on the panel say what their favorite all-time game is?
My favorite game is Spelunky, which is like you have to go spelunk in a cave. It's made by Derek Yu and recently won like a design award and everything. It's coming out soon on the Xbox. It's free on the PC right now, but they're like making an improved version, and it's by far and away the best game that I've ever played.
Every few years, I have like a new favorite that I get into and spend like 2 months not doing my work, which is really terrible. But I gotta say, all-time favorite game is Contra.
Contra. Good
Contra's the
answer.
best.
Wow, you're so old.
Yeah.
Contra. I like asteroids. Whoa. I'm just getting into that one.
This is hard for me because I play a lot of video games. So right now my answer is inclined to be like Mass Effect 3, but that's because it's what I played last month.
Yeah,
So I'm wondering, for each of you, like, how did the creative process start? Where did the game idea come from for each of your games?
shameless self-promotion. Well, no, you know, you're already, if you're doing a comic book, if you were already sort of doing a comic book that you thought would make a good game, I mean, that's where I went with it. You know, I had ideas for comic books, and I was like, you know, if this was a game too, it'd be really cool. You know what I mean? Sell my comics while we're playing video games, and sell your video game while I'm have the comics.
And bring pamphlets promoting the comic and the video game to the panel.
I was going somewhere else after this.
Oh, yeah.
Andy, be sure to talk into the mic so it gets
Yeah, right. Okay.
your loud
So
voice
loud.
won't help.
I have
know.
such a booming voice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Miguel actually made us submit 3 ideas for our talk, or to like just sort of see who he can match us up with. And all the comic artists submitted 3 ideas too, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then he matched us up based on basically what he thought would make good and interesting pairs. So me and Emily threw our ideas all out the window though, and so we sort of went. We just emailed each other a lot, and they were really long emails at first because she doesn't have like instant messenger or Skype or anything. So I actually didn't even know what she looked like until like a couple hours ago. But so we had these really long emails, and then in one of the emails, it just like this long. There was one tiny sentence like, maybe we should make a multiplayer choose your own adventure game. And I was like, that's it right there. And then that's what we did.
Has anyone actually been over to see the games or played any of the games yet?
Yeah.
So a bunch of you guys have? Cool.
What was your favorite game?
Yes. Cloud jumping's the coolest. Black Church.
That one's terrible. Programmer on it, really bad. He doesn't know what he's doing at all.
Programmer's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
He has
guy.
no idea what he's doing.
Our game isn't technically, the game I did with Jamie isn't technically finished. We actually have quite a lot of things we're going to try and add this week before we enter into the Indiecade thing.
I have like an entire question about that.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh.
But
Bring it on.
Talk about the process.
Oh, how we developed it? Well, I was sort of strong-armed Jamie into doing my idea. He kind of sent me a bunch of actually pretty good ideas, and I said, no, this is what we're going to do. Because I had this idea for doing a comic book called We're No Angels, and it's a story about how God is the ultimate music fan, music groupie, and what he's done is it's become clear that all of his he can't wait more than about 27 years to get his favorite singers and rock stars up to heaven to perform private shows for him. Now, on average, he waits about 27 years, sometimes longer, sometimes a little less, you know. He waited longer with Elvis, he waited a little less with Aaliyah. And so it's a story about Elvis Presley leading a mission with Jimi Hendrix saying, let's bust out of heaven. This sucks. We're playing nightly shows, private shows for God every night forever, for all eternity. Let's bust out of here. So it's basically a twin stick shooter of them escaping heaven to try and get out. And they recruit some other guys. It's actually, in the expanded one, it's supposed to be, the original title of the game was Heaven's 11. And it had Kurt Cobain in it, and everyone was escaping. But we shortened it down just because of time restraints. We shortened it down to 4: Hendrix, Tupac, Amy Winehouse, and Elvis. And it was a lot of fun to work on with Jamie. He came up with a lot of really funny ideas.
For Kyle and I, we had a really disconnected process because our only method of communication was through this Google document. there is no instant messenger. She's off. She's not in town, so I only met her today. But we were bouncing back ideas back and forth, and what our common ground was that we both were really fascinated by the Victorian era. So we decided to do the most ridiculous thing we could think of for it, which was make a fighting game featuring ladies and gentlemen hitting each other with canes and fans and such. And from there, it was just basically we just kept throwing ideas at each other, and they just sort of escalated in terms of ridiculousness, and it just sort of came together from that.
The game I made, the collaboration just sort of naturally fell together. I submitted 3 ideas, and he, I guess, also submitted 3 ideas, and we just sort of tried combining them into different things, and then as our time constraint became more apparent, certain features got dropped, and I think the game became simpler and better because of it. The super lo-fi pixel art style was also a result of the time crunch, because I was in New Zealand for a good month during the time in which everyone else had time to draw. So I was just drawing little pixels on the airplane rather than using a pen like I probably would have maybe otherwise wanted to. And so I had ideas for a jumping game, and Farbs wanted to do a pinball style game where you didn't know where the ball was going to fall, and it should just sort of combine the two.
That actually brings up another thing. 2 of you decided to go with pixel art styles instead of your usual sort of more illustrated comic style. I now know why you did it. Andy, why did you choose that for Black Church?
Well, when I was working, with another designer, and he kind of like, I had no idea what I was doing, because like my stuff is exactly like you say, very illustrative, and now it's even more painting and all the rest of it, so I had no idea where to go with it, but we kind of were looking at pixel art, and that seemed like the easiest way. And as soon as I started designing them, I was like, oh my god, these demonic, satanic barbarians look really cute in pixel form. And I just loved it. I thought they looked hilarious. So when I was animating them, it's kind of cool. They got like axes, and their hair kind of like one pixel goes when they run. So I thought it was just really funny to start working in pixel art, and it just reminded me of being a kid and playing Contra and Super Mario and all that kind of stuff. So even earlier when I had like in television and Atari, this sort of reminded me of that sort of gameplay. So I thought when you and I got together to develop Black Church, I thought, just continue on with these sort of the pixel art thing. I don't know if it makes it easier, but I think you were talking about, if you put too many pixels into it, it gets like a lot of work.
Well, I think pixel art and cartooning actually have a lot in common, because it's abstraction. You're taking something
completely
real and distilling it down into its simplest forms, and I think it's pure cartooning. That's what pixel art is.
Yeah, I totally agree. That totally makes sense. Yeah, and it was just really exciting to do that kind of stuff. It really brought me back to my childhood, and I remember I gave you the stuff. We had a meeting, and we were eating Thai food, and I showed you the stuff, and you're like, oh, I'll see what I can do on the weekend. You know what I mean? And this is like, we didn't have a lot of time to go left before this whole thing started. And like, it was like, the weekend hit, and like 2 days later, oh yeah, the game's done. You should see it. It's so good. And I was like, what? Like, what? How did you finish it? And then I went to see you guys at the studio, and actually got to see the animating stuff that I did in gameplay, and to see that you all were having so much fun playing it. And then I played it, and I was blown away. I couldn't believe how fun it was. It was like the most fun game I've played in forever. And it's like 4 players, and everyone was like, we were all working pretty hard to like kick each other's butts, and I was like, wow, you gotta be good at this game.
To be fair, I actually spent an entire week at the point that you...
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I was just trying to make you look good,
It looked really good the first weekend, though. It was very rapidly prototyped.
Yeah, I was freaked out. When I saw it for the first time, I was freaked out. Like, to see my stuff that I had designed up there was just really surreal. I had no idea what was going to happen, so thank you, Miguel.
You're welcome.
I love you.
Before you ask another question, I unfortunately have to duck out to go to another panel across the street in 5 minutes. So,
fine.
Unless you have another.
If you have anything else to add to the pixel art thing, that was the question I had for you that I really wanted to get in before you left.
Yeah, I think I said
you covered
what I
it?
needed to say.
Okay,
but again,
cool.
just about the cartooning and yeah.
I love the way your pixel stuff looks also.
Thanks.
It's super cute.
The print is really good too.
Thank you very much. I liked everyone's. Go play the games if you haven't played. They're all great.
They're all good. They're all really fun.
All right, thank you.
So I've always found that all games are sort of a work of compromise. There's always more that you want to put into them than you can ever get in. So I'm curious for each of your games, like what were the features you had to drop?
I wanted 11 people in my game to choose from. Heaven's 11 was the title, and Jamie was like, "No, absolutely not. We're doing 4. We're picking
madness.
4." So yeah, that was the big compromise.
Were there any other sort of features that like you're hoping to put in, or that you would?
Yeah,
like to
actually,
put
there's
in?
one we were working on. There was supposed to be a mechanic of like. I mean, the volume's down in the games, but there's a mechanic where each person is playing when you hit. We wanted to incorporate buttons into it instead of just the twin stick, where one person would be playing a song and the other person could. All the songs would match up. They can mash up if they overlap or overplay. We never really got to figure out that mechanic and get it working, so that's too bad. We wanted to have like, a two-pack beat, but with an Elvis acoustic guitar over top of it and stuff like that. So. We have a little bit of time to figure that out.
You can always do more.
Yeah.
Andy? Guess you wouldn't know. Like we did it so quickly.
Yeah, no, it happened so fast. Extra stuff that we wanted to put in. More backgrounds, I think.
Yeah, I know. I
Different
wanted
background screens would be fun. What else were we talking about? You just kept adding stuff, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's awesome. Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Can you give me a swoosh? I was like, oh, yeah, that's really cool. I mean, there's, I guess, some other things we could add. I think, like, some just stuff like intro screen stuff and, like, cleaning up that stuff. And I know you were talking about cleaning up some of the background stuff with the pixels and that kind of stuff. But I think we can even think of a lot more things to drop in there, like...
What I actually want is, like, when you dunk the game is sort of like heavy metal basketball where the baby is the ball and you either have to kill it or
The
save it.
sacrificial baby.
Yeah, and it's like going to see the Raptors and they all get like a pickaxe and a sword.
Yeah,
every
exactly.
player, and it's like, how long will this game last?
The one thing I would like to have added is like when you actually do that, I want to have like a series of comic panels of like them victoriously like dunking the baby or.
Oh, sweet.
So, I mean,
Yeah, I'll get on that this
Yeah.
week. Sweet.
Crazy little sort of
that
like
would be
anime
good,
style
actually.
cutscenes of scrolling and stuff.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Totally over the top.
Yeah, that'd be
That's what I
awesome.
want in.
That'd be awesome. I'll take care of that this week. No problem.
Excellent.
One thing we did miss out on in our game that Jamie and I wanted, we wanted way more power-ups with our escaping from heaven rock stars. We wanted more like amphetamines. You go really fast. And,
I love hearing people like playing that, going like, find the heroine so we can see where we're going.
Yeah, the heroine there's an escape from reality mechanic where you get the heroine and you kind of drift out of the game for a second, and then you can see the whole game from above, and you're like, oh, there's the stairway to go. You kind of come back after. We wanted more of those kind of gross power-ups.
More drugs.
We wanted more drugs. We wanted more vices in the game.
Damian?
Well, for the Yawhg, we actually pulled off everything we wanted to, except I got really lazy. And I planned out like 10,000 words of writing, and I only did about 7,000, 5,000, I'm not sure.
Slack off.
Lazy.
Amateur.
Lazy.
Yeah, like I figured it was enough. Like it had enough variation because the story's all randomly generated and pulling different parts of that. So you only see like maybe 1,000 of the words through your playthrough. Yeah, so just more writing really. Yeah.
I see like 5 people play through it now. Is it possible to win?
Yeah, it is. I haven't seen a single win like today, but I've seen a lot of wins like 2 days ago. Like it was at another show, and everybody was winning, and I was like, oh man, is this too easy? And now everybody's losing. I'm like, oh man, is this too hard? I don't know.
We cut out a lot. Originally, the plan was that we'd have lots of dialogue between fights, and it would sort of build off each other. So if someone kept playing the same person, your enemy would comment on that, say, "Hey, it's you again." So we had a whole huge plan for it. It just kept building from there, and we ended up cutting that out because it would take a lot of time. Then we just planned on having a lot of writing between the cutscenes, between the fights, and I ended up cutting out every single word of dialogue. I got about half of it written before I realized that it was actually just making it worse, because you don't really want to be reading all this text. You just want to get to the next fight. And I figured it would just be better to leave it to the player's imagination. So that was something that wasn't, like, I think it's better because without having too much text in it. But that was definitely something we dropped, like, I think I wrote about 2,000 words of before we decided to cut it all out.
Andy, how many words did you write for your game?
None. I did all the writing. All like 5 or 6 words.
Barbarians win.
You didn't write that bit. I actually wrote it.
I think
Miguel wrote that,
I
yeah.
didn't even write that.
Stop trying to take credit for my work.
I know, I'm sorry, I keep doing it.
So that actually brings up another thing. What were like the features that you thought would be awesome that ended up being like a terrible idea? Were there any of those? Like Christine's already answered
Yeah, I
that.
think the whole concept of my game, basically, on paper, was an amazing idea. But no, I love my game. It's excellent.
We basically ripped off another game's design. Dungeons of Fate has this whole mechanic where you go in, like Dungeons of Fate's like a little indie game, and it's 4-player and it's awesome, and it's Fate with a Y. So if you're looking for it and you're like, oh my god, but it's a little 4-player indie game, and you go into town and random things happen, and we just basically wanted to hone in on that. So we took no risks. We knew exactly what we were doing. We just like elaborated basically on that whole like go to town and do random things. It's because in Dungeons of Fate you can also go into dungeons and fight things, but we took that out because that's a lot of work.
So your game's just Fate.
Yeah, our game is just Fate. Although you can, if you know what you're doing, you can do well.
Sorry.
I was pretty blown away the whole time. I just couldn't even believe it. I thought it was all really cool. I wouldn't
Again,
even know where you failed.
Everywhere.
I don't know if it was boring and I was playing and going, oh my god, I don't know, man, this is pretty boring.
I kind of
Like,
just
I was
drugged
like,
you
I
up
don't-
before you played. It worked.
Yeah, that's what it's like. I walked into the room and it was just like a waft of some sort of like gaseous vapor, and then I was like, "Whoa, wow, this is the best game ever." Like, oxygen.
It worked.
A lot of oxygen in that room.
Oh, oxygen. Okay.
So for the comic creators, this was like your first time being involved in a game project. How did you find, like, what did you learn? What was sort of a surprise?
You know what's surprising for me was I had all these, great ideas, or Jamie would come up with these cool ideas of these drug power-ups and how they would work and stuff, and then he would show me how it would work, and like the heroin where you take it and your character goes flat and flips around high in the sky, and he would come up with all these cool mechanics, and I would say, oh, so we also need, like, you have to press the A button to cycle through the comic screens at the beginning, and he would go, that's really hard to do. And we're like, but the heroin trip was easy. I don't know. I don't know anything about games. I don't know anything about how to make a game. So
Here's a trick with like programmers. When they say something's really hard to do, what they mean is it's going to be really boring to do because it's not interesting
it's
enough.
true. It's true.
So that's a code word
he
for.
might not have ever said the word hard to do. He might have said
Yeah.
annoying to do.
I'll be really bored doing this because it's too easy. That's what that really is code for, I think.
I could see that's what he means, actually.
Like the Yawhg used to just be like a black screen with the title on the front, but nobody realized you had to press a button to start it. So there was like that little like press a button prompt that I have now that flashes up, and it's really, really tedious to code that. It is the most boring thing in the world.
Yeah,
And
I didn't have any idea about
I've done
that.
it so many times. I've done the same like, fade out, slowly fade it. Like, it's so easy to do, and you know exactly how to do it, but it takes so many like little like lines of code that it's just, it's the worst.
Menus suck.
Yeah, menus suck. Jason likes menus.
I like menus
Jason's
too.
crazy.
Your games are menus.
Yeah, your games
Yeah.
basically are menus. Really cool menus, but menus.
Menus with lot.
I actually always wanted to do a website or like a blog called menureview.com, and you review menus of games, just the menus, or DVDs or Blu-rays. You can have sections of all the different menus to review.
I would totally read
Menureview.com.
that.
I thought it'd be
You
a
should
cool
do
blog.
it.
I could do it. Well, someone's gonna steal it now.
Someone else do it.
I'll
He's
contribute.
busy.
I'll contribute to it. Whoever does it.
Did you answer already, Andy?
I believe I did.
You
didn't
did?
I?
Okay.
So sad I gave away my menu review idea now.
Yeah, that's totally going to be stolen.
You just blew like $3 million.
Remember, even in my whole career in life, I'm fighting with the knife, remember? I don't save any of these ideas and
The knife
build
just
on them
win.
and go to somewhere to build something, and I throw all the ideas out.
So for the game creators now, this was in some cases your first time. I think, Damian, is this the first time you've worked with another artist? And Christine, you do that all the time, right?
Sort of. I've worked with artists on my own project where it's just, telling someone who to draw, what expressions I need, and so forth. It was the first time I've ever had a collaboration and And like normally I'm a designer, I do a graphic design, and so my creative process starts with doing a mock-up of what the game's going to look like, and I have a pretty good idea of what the final screenshots are going to be before I start. This, I let Kyla do all the art, so she did all the design, so it was totally different from my normal process. And it was sort of scary because I'm used to having this very comforting final screenshot to work from, and this time I had to leave it up to Kyla. And it worked out well, but it scared me for a while.
Yeah, so I'd never worked with an artist before. I usually do all my own like little pixel art. It's not the best, but it's decent, I guess. It gets by. And so it's really nice working with an artist who knows what they're doing, because she just we had a Dropbox folder set up, and Dropbox. I won't explain it. It doesn't matter. So I just always get these updates like, oh, there's new items in your folder, and then I'd go and I'd open them and I'd be all excited, and every day it was like Christmas. I'd get these new pictures that look beautiful, and I put them right in the game, and then the game looked that much better. Yeah, it's really nice working with an artist, and Dropbox is also our main method of one of our main methods of communication. We'd name the files things that we'd want to say to each other that would be too tedious to email. So it'd be like, Emily, look at this. This is really important. This is what I was trying to explain in the email earlier. .png.
That's an interesting way of dealing with that. In general, in most cases, you were not actually able to work physically in the same location. How did people find working remotely? Were there challenges?
It's hard because Jamie's a few hours back. He's a few hours back, 3 hours back, I think he was. And I think he's got 3 kids, 2 little kids. And that was always kind of he's like, I've got 40 minutes now, we can go on Skype now. And I'd be like, I can't, I'm working on a deadline. And he'd be like, okay, well, my next window of 40 minutes will be tomorrow at 3 p.m. your time. I'm like, I'm in a meeting then. So sometimes we go 5 days in a row where we couldn't schedule any time to speak. So that was kind of a fun thing. And then I'd be drawing random game elements, hoping maybe he can use some of these, this cartoon fire. And he would send me an email back saying, what is all this cartoon fire you sent me? I'm like, I don't know, we just weren't talking, so I'm just going to send you game elements I'm drawing. I thought maybe you could put them in somewhere.
So like I said, Emily doesn't use Instant Messenger. At least if she does, I don't know it, and she never shared it with me. And that would have been really helpful. But...
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
But I was.
Okay. So yeah, it was all email, and it was actually kind of neat because at the end I could be like, I finished a game with somebody I have never met before, don't know what she sounds like, I have no idea what she looks like, and so I had to be told that she was in a plaid shirt today by somebody else. So and then I kind of figured it might have been her, and yeah, it was weird.
Did she disappoint?
No. She looked. I don't know what I was imagining, but
it was a rhetorical question.
Okay. She looked. I don't know. She has a little hand-drawn portrait of herself. So I was kind of going off of that, and she looks slightly different from that. I don't know.
You guys had eerily similar portraits.
it was
You had the same hair in the portraits.
Yeah.
I was looking at them going what is going on here? How did I know to match these two up?
Yeah.
We were in the same town, so it was pretty easy. It was just email back and forth. But when you work in comics, if you work for DC or Marvel or any a lot of these big publishers, they're either in New York or California. And if they're in California, it's really awesome because you always get 3 hours extra on your deadlines. That's the best thing ever, which you can stretch out to 5 hours because you're like, oh, I'm almost there. You know what I mean? But you and I were in the same place, so it was super easy. And I think that you need that sort of first initial meeting to figure everything out, and then from there, it's all sort of email. It's just fine. It's pretty easy.
It definitely helps.
Yeah, totally.
Christine?
Yeah, actually, I had the same problem where there was no IM. It was just all edits in this increasingly long Google document. But the time zone thing did help immensely because she's just outside town, so we're in the same time zone. Normally, I'm used to working with an artist who is located in Indonesia, which makes things quite difficult to coordinate. So it was actually nice being able to talk to her several times during the same day.
No, one thing that struck me, like I know a lot of comic artists, I know a lot of indie game developers. It's one of the reasons that this idea appealed to me. One thing that struck me is both how generally busy indie game developers and comic creators are, and also just how sort of similar the jobs are, that you're kind of working solitary for like a long period of time, whether it's 6 months or a year, or in the case of some indie games, 4 years. And then suddenly this thing's done that you've been spending all this time on. What is sort of like your day-to-day usual day like? What is the grind like?
You wake up like at 11 or noon, and then you go for brunch. Slowly. You move very slowly until you get your coffee that's like this big. And then all of a sudden you're alive, which is good. It's like...
You did imply that Miguel designed the whole game for you in like a few days, and you just walked in and were surprised, right?
Yeah, I was.
Okay, yeah.
I was. Well, he's asking about the typical comic book day.
I don't
and
know.
I think our days are fairly close, sort of. I mean, we both work until 5 or 6 in the morning.
I know we've exchanged emails for sure.
Yeah, well,
where I'm like,
yeah.
Andy, check this out when you get a chance, and look at this, and like 5:45 a.m. I'll go bing and response. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, once you get that first meal in and all the rest of it, then it just becomes like from sort of 1 o'clock till 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. You're just drawing solid.
I actually had a lot of problems with this game, Miguel, where I'm freelance generally. Like I don't have a steady job. I have like a few steady clients, but I actually had a lot of work roll in. So I had some storyboarding work come in, did some storyboarding for some video. I did some production design for a music video, and I just had so much work roll in during the last couple months that I was just telling Miguel I have no time to even do these cartoony little simple drawings. So I found there are a lot of sleepless nights. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is sounding pretty eerily familiar.
Yeah, definitely you sent some emails back at, like, I'd send one at 5:47 a.m. and you would respond at 5:49 a.m.
Miguel's up all night.
But then I'd be like, oh, I didn't get any sleep last night. I'd be up at 7 a.m. that same day, and I would send you an email, and you'd still be up at 7 a.m. too. Sorry to remind you.
Yeah, I'm getting flashbacks.
Well, I was starting to wonder because I never got an email from Miguel until after midnight every day. It would be like past midnight. I was like, where is this guy?
No, I disagree. There would be ones at like 7 a.m., 4 p.m., 4:50 p.m., 9 p.m., 11 p.m., then 5:45 a.m. I'm like, what? When did this guy? Like, 4 hours sleep last night?
The trick is I have no schedule, so it's just like, I'm up now, I need to get these emails done.
But do you take like little naps, like 2-hour naps?
I don't know. It's all a blur. The entire thing is a blur. Like, while this has been going on, I've also been like finishing off a 2-year-long indie game. So, yeah, it's all a blur. A terrible, terrible blur.
I'm kind of like Miguel, I guess, in that I don't really have a schedule. I kind of wake up around 8-ish maybe, go on my computer. Like, bed is right by my bed, so sometimes I never get up. And so I'm just
straight to Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
Pants on Fridays. They're the best. No pants on Friday.
Really?
Yeah, why wear pants on Friday?
Or Monday or Tuesday or
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah, really. But so then I'm on my computer and then I look down at the time and it's already 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I hadn't done any work yet. And then I guilt myself into working until like 4 a.m. from like 4 p.m. And then but a lot of that time is interspersed with Twitter because that is the most distracting thing in the world.
It is.
And then,
It totally is.
and then I go to sleep and then at 4 and then wake up at 8 and then it starts again basically. And I'm usually fine though. I work on very little sleep and I don't understand why. And I don't usually have coffee either, so.
What's this, 8 a.m.?
Yeah, 4 to 8 a.m.
I don't think I've seen 8 a.m. in like a year.
Yeah, there's this thing called the sun. It rises in the morning. I know this is foreign to you, Miguel, but it's actually quite amazing.
Do I have to go outside to see that?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what you're talking about.
I keep a pretty similar schedule to Damian, actually. I can get by on like 5 hours of sleep and...
luxury.
Yeah.
I
Well,
hate
that's
you
a
young
normal
people.
night. If it's crunch, who knows? But yeah, so I just try to wake up at sunrise, and I do all my work on a laptop. So it's right beside the bed. I'll just grab it. I'll write a couple thousand words, and eventually go make breakfast, put some clothes on maybe. So yeah, no, do most of my work pretty early in the morning actually, and then also late in the evening. It's midday is just total waste.
Does any of you guys ever have
eat
a
then?
boyfriend or girlfriend that is on like a 9 to 5 normal schedule and trying to juggle that? Because I find that like with my ex-girlfriend,
Yeah, I've had, like,
the
15 of
key
them.
word here is ex-girlfriend.
It never worked.
Yeah, she would work a 9 to 5 job, and I would she would just not understand and be like, "Oh, I didn't sleep last night," and she'd get up and be wearing the same clothes and still be at the computer, and she said, "What do you mean you didn't sleep? I'm going to work." I'm like, "Well, I had a deadline and for 2 different clients, so I had to do them both." And then, then I'd go to sleep, and I'd sleep till 4, and then she'd come home from work, and she said, "What do you do today?" And I'd say, "Well, I slept because I was up all night." And she said, "So we're not going out tonight?" And I'm like, "Well, no. Okay, well, we could go out, but I've got more work to do." So our schedules are always opposite. And, cool. This is kind of a sad story. I don't know why I'm telling it.
Out of curiosity, just on the same,
Heartbreaking.
how many of you actually don't work on weekends?
What's a weekend?
Sometimes I do.
Do any of you guys have the thing where you sometimes don't even know what day of the week it
I
is?
don't know.
Yeah.
Or
All
a
the
lot of times I
time.
don't know the difference between Saturday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
I never
It doesn't
know.
matter really,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it does because your friends operate on those schedules, and you're sort of weirded out to find out
It
that
mattered a
people are
lot to
working
9
on
to 5
Wednesday.
girlfriend.
The weirdest thing is I've had many 9 to 5 girlfriends and it never works out. You
How
never
many,
spend
Andy?
time? A bunch. But my girlfriend now does the same thing I do, so it's perfect. Same species. It's nice.
But she does it better.
Oh yeah, she's a lot better than I am. I suck compared to her. But what I was gonna say is the weirdest thing is when you go traveling, right? Because you never know what day of the week it is. So you'll be in some other town somewhere, and you're like, "It's Tuesday night, let's party!" And you're like, "There's no one." It's a ghost town. Like, if you've ever been to Calgary, I don't know if anyone lives in Calgary. I was downtown and I felt like I was in this with The Walking Dead. I was just waiting for zombies to come into this ghost city, whole city. It was like a Thursday night in Calgary, and I was like, "Let's party! This is my vacation. We're at the con." Nothing. It was a ghost town.
This is going online. You're losing so many Calgary fans right now.
Well, sorry. Have a night somewhere on a Thursday.
Have a
please.
nightlife or Andy will hate you.
Yeah, Friday and Saturday were good, but the rest of the week I was scared.
So you've basically completely proven my point that pretty much we live the same lifestyle.
Yeah. Indie game creators and comic creators are pretty much on the same.
Are we taking questions from the audience? Because there's a guy out there.
Is there someone
What's going on? Are you done
who
your
wants a question? No, I've got more. I've got a ton of these
Oh
things.
my god! Oh my god!
But yeah, let's answer a question from the audience.
I'm just curious, do you think that working from home provides any distractions that you had in an office or something?
So the question was, just so it gets on the mic, does working from home create distractions?
When I'm in the studio, I've worked in a studio for a few years, I'm more distracted because I normally work at home, there's no one there, so I just talk to my animals. But they don't have a lot to say back. But when I'm at the studio, I just start talking to people, and then they have a lot to say. So I end up getting less work done when I'm at the studio. I find certain jobs that I do are better at the studio because it's better to have people around to sort of bounce ideas off. And then there's jobs like inking or something where it's a little bit more mindless. You just got to get it done, and coloring. That stuff I have to do at home because I can't have the distractions of other people around. So it's it depends on what job I'm doing in the comic book process.
So there's definitely a similarity in terms of the lifestyle, but I think there's also something deeper connecting comics and games.
You mean like, I thought you meant we're all nerds.
It might just be that we're all nerds, but I don't know. It's just one of the things I found talking to a lot of people were busy when I was sort of reaching out to various people, but there was a lot of comic artists who were I always wanted to make a game, and I sort of was doing mini comics and such before I went into making games, so I've sort of gone the other way. And to me, there seems to be some sort of connection.
Well, it's pretty thrilling seeing your characters animated and moving and doing stuff. So it's that's the appeal when I was when it came up. Do you want to do a game? Yeah.
I always thought when someone said, "Do you want to do a game?" it was going to take 4 years and cost $5 million, so it was never going to happen. Yeah, I didn't realize that there was like a whole indie thing, and you guys could make them in a day.
Yeah, no, there's game jams all the time where we just make games
Make a game.
4 hours,
Day.
2 days, a week. Like,
They just get progressively less sucky the longer you
yeah,
have.
the more you work on it, generally the less sucky. Not always, but generally, the game gets less sucky. But most games are like you can pull out like a quick prototype of it, like fully functional, in like 2 days. Like Bastion, if anybody knows it, that game was developed, or like the first bit, or like all the basic mechanics of the game were all programmed in the first week. It was like fully playable. But then they spent like a year and a half just making it look pretty and sound pretty. So it's pretty quick to make simple games. But then when you want to make them good, it takes a long time.
Very long time.
Yeah.
But no, is there something like culturally or about the mediums that connects them?
Well,
On
I
a
think
deeper
a
level,
lot
do you
of
think?
popular games and comics are all character based. You know, so there's some kind of connection to genre stuff.
I think I've stumped the panel.
Is that even close to being true?
You're asking us to get deep here.
Yes, I am. This is the deep part of the question.
You're back when I was in-
images that are juxtaposed and business.
Juxtaposed, good word.
Yeah. Just and integrated in synergy.
Well, back when I was in high school, actually, I did try to make comics, but I found I was not good enough of an artist. I just couldn't get the handle of the whole medium. So quickly, I kind of just moved over to making like little games and stuff. And so I guess that's what you want, Miguel? Is that what you want?
That's along the lines.
Okay, yeah. I wanted to make comics, and I also wanted to make games, and games won.
Yeah, I found games were much faster because I draw slow.
Yeah.
Christine, any comments on this?
Well, I also, like Damian, wanted to go into comics, but art is not, their figurative art is not really my field. So, but what it came from was just this desire to tell stories, and video games are a way of doing that, which I'm
That's
good
good.
at.
I think that's what Miguel was looking for.
Storytelling.
Storytelling.
I'm less disappointed in the panel now.
Well, glad to have your approval.
It's okay. So what we've learned is basically games is where people who wanted to be comic artists but kind of sucked went.
I actually wanted to be a filmmaker when I was younger. I wanted to direct and make films, so I thought comics was a cheaper way of doing that. I could tell the stories, and I was doing storyboards for my films when I was making shorts, and then I realized I should just put word balloons on these and save a lot of money and not make this film, and just go photocopy it and hand it out to people.
It's already done.
Yeah.
Medieval
But I think-
Knievel.
Yes.
Would have been an amazing movie.
It still could be a movie. Andy likes a comic I did, the Medieval Evil Knievel. It's a really dumb comic. See, by the response, you can see how much it's going to make at the box office. It's going to be like an
starting to
Adam
notice
Sandler vehicle.
A definite pattern in your names, because didn't you have some sort of Jesus pun one as well that you were talking
Yeah, that was
about?
almost a game pitch. Caesus, the Jesus of the sea.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Mary gave birth to two. There was like, then the first one was like a weird fish baby, and they were like, ooh, what do we do with this? He was they kind of hid him and shuttled him off, and he was raised by someone in the sewers, and eventually made it to the sea. He's got all the same abilities, similar abilities to Jesus.
Wait,
He walks underwater.
fishes? Can he multiply fishes?
Yeah, the fishes, multiplying the fishes and loaves and everything like that, yeah. He turns,
he
wa-
do
he,
it
turns,
the way
he turns water into brine.
Okay, I gotta ask, what genre of game would that be? Like, what would the central
I think
mechanic
it's a
be?
role-playing game. Yeah.
So would he go around like fighting, like random combat?
Spreading the word.
JRPG?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You can help me with this one.
With all that free time I have.
Yeah.
So I think one connection that I see between the two of them is that they've both sort of been associated with like adolescent power fantasies, either with superheroes or space marines or whatever. Comics seem to have done a really good job of showing that they can do more diverse stuff than kind of just straight up summer blockbuster action type stories. But games seem to just be on the edge of doing that right now with the indie game scene. Is there like... You think there's something that games can learn from how comics have managed to sort of legitimize themselves more? And also, is that legitimacy even worth seeking?
Well, considering more people are buying video games than people are buying less comics, I would say, yeah.
It's not worth seeking, or?
It is worth seeking, totally.
I don't know how to answer this question without using words like juxtapose and synergy, so I'm just going to...
Juxtapose is okay, synergy's off, because that's like business speak. And none of us are like...
No, the new word is transparency now.
Transparency?
That's the big buzzword.
Is it?
In business, yeah. Transparency. Sorry.
Any of you say gamification, you're off the panel.
Oh, yeah, no. Okay, anyway. Games as legitimate?
Yeah, in terms of like legitimizing themselves, like comics have seemed to have done a good job.
It's already really happening. There's a lot. It's the the independent games movement is slowly gaining more and more people paying attention to it as the digital era is just ushering in all these developers are able to distribute their stuff without publishers. So a lot more people are being exposed, and a lot more people are starting to realize the benefits of just games developed by small teams that have no shooting or the Yawhg is just about just going around doing random, and people seem to enjoy it. But that's already really slowly happening, and I think we don't really have to do anything but what we're already doing.
Keep making interesting games.
Yeah, just keep making interesting games, because it's gonna happen eventually. And I don't think that legitimacy, is it worth fighting for? I don't think it's just happening. There's not really anything we can do about it. Even if you hate, oh no, games are now somewhat serious sometimes. That's the worst.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to chime in on that? Nope, dead air.
Yeah.
Well, actually, what I would say is that I don't feel like video games do enough with narrative right now. It's the indie scene is sort of helping with that, but I feel like there isn't really enough coming from there, and I think there's definitely a lot we could learn from the comic scene from there. Because when the best video game for narrative we can bring up is Mass Effect or something else from Bio, it's still a game about a space marine. We're getting better, but we need to pick this up.
I feel like there's almost there's a certain anti-narrative contingent in the indie game scene.
I don't know if it's the indie game scene so much as the indie dev scene. There just aren't that many developers who are that into writing stories.
I have gone on past saying narrative has no place in games, on record in past.
See, he's the problem.
Yeah, but I have since changed my opinion, obviously, since my game is all narrative driven. I don't know. I was young and stupid.
Yeah, what's up with that? You normally do platforming games. How come a narrative game this time?
Well, it was more just do something different, show my range, because I know I can do other stuff. Although, a year ago, I would have been completely lost on how to do the whole, that entire game, because I'd never really done text in games. It's all been pictures. This is the button that you push to do this, but I don't explain it. I like to let people figure it out for themselves, and for the most part, they do. But so I'd never used text, and so me and Emily are yeah, text adventure, let's do this. And then I'm just I've never done text before, and this is all text. Oh my God, what do I don't even know how to manipulate a string.
Some of that ties into, it seems like digital distribution has been this amazing thing for indie games and has really helped the art form grow. And at the same time, it seems to be that the internet is kind of killing comics. That's the impression I get from a lot of comic artists I talk to.
I'm definitely more interested in the internet than I am in comics, even though I love comics.
But no, I mean in terms of piracy and stuff like that. It seems like it's harder to make money.
Everything, if you say it that way.
Well, not games though. Games we're doing better than ever in some ways, especially as small people. It's suddenly possible to make money making small games.
I don't know how anyone makes money in comics. I mean, unless you're working as a big mainstream Marvel or DC artist, I can't see how you make a good living doing comics. Andy?
I'm on the barter system. I just barter stuff
Parrots?
Yeah, parrots. I've got a stereo. Can I have some groceries?
Given the fact that it is possible for indie game developers to be making a living because of the internet, is there a way that comic creators could be possibly,
Yeah, I mean, it's
not
coming.
broke.
It's coming. Right now, there's Comixology and a few others, and Graphically just moved to becoming more of a publishing company where you know, a lot of places like Comixology and whatever, you know, Apple's always going to take its 30%, but then Comixology for using their site wants 50. So you've got 35% of your cut, right? Which is, you know, all they did was press some buttons, all of them.
Ouch.
Right? Yeah. So it's like I did all the work and I only get 35%, right? So it's only on the web, so it's still a baby thing. So we're not even talking a lot of money. But you know, Graphically right now is doing a thing for $150 that you get their reader, you plug it in, and you get all the features to go on, you know, iTunes and, you know, downloadable PDFs off your website, and it's coming. And finally, like, I mean, I was doing webcomics like 3-4 years ago, solid, and we were like some of the first guys, like, you know, Eric Kim, we were some of the first guys to start doing webcomics that were sort of like already in mainstream comics. And finally, after 3-4 years, comics are starting to become monetized on the internet, right? Like for Black Church, that goes into printing this week. Last week I put up a thing for pre-orders, right? So I got people pre-ordering, and all that money can go into printing.
Yeah.
Right? So some of these things that you can do are kind of interesting. I think what you're going to see in comic books is periodicals are going to die. You're not going to have the 22-page comic book anymore. It'll be on your iPad, or you're just download it on your computer. But
it's so easy to pirate that is the problem.
Yeah, it's so easy to pirate that. But I think people are always going to want the books. Right? And I think what you're going to see with comics is when they become books, the production values are going to go up. The whole paperback notion is going to go, and you're going to get these high-end, really beautiful books. And by the time those books come out, you know, the consumer already knows the product, right? They've been buying it online or stealing it online, whatever you guys like to do. I mean, I'm no different. I'm a thief and a pirate, whatever.
It's sort of like what Faith
I'm
Evan Hicks
a thief and
did.
a pirate. That's how I pay for things with stereos. But
So something sort of like what Faith Evan Hicks did with Friends with Boys recently, where she had like the whole graphic novel free, serialized, and then put out the book and chopped off people's ability to read the comic online.
Yeah, I mean, those are some of the things you can do, or you can put half the book or whatever. But a lot of comic book publishers are finding the more they put up online, the more the sales were on the actual books. So what happens is the more you do online at the beginning, it's actually you're just creating your market, right? You're building your market before your product even comes out. So it's like, you know, if you're talking about ShamWow, you know, like chamois, super chamois, it's like, for you know, you're making videos of the production of the chamois, and for months and months, cars are getting dirty. Cars are getting so dirty. What are we going to do?
This is the weirdest analogy.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're trying to say now.
I always do ShamWows, but I was like, how does ShamWow build a market to begin with? Dirty cars.
No idea what you're talking about.
But anyway, you're
like
basically building a market beforehand, before your product even comes out. So that's sort of the key. You know what I mean? Like if you guys are designing video games, you know, one way that you would have while you're building the game, if it took you years and years, is to have little playable things of the game up first, or the artwork for the game up first, or all that kind of stuff. I mean, you guys design your game so damn fast. It's like, I don't think you have to worry about it. But with the
2
comics,
years, 2 long years.
well, yeah, I guess. Yeah.
2 very long.
But I mean,
years.
that's where comics are at when it comes to that kind of thing. You know, we're not quite there yet, but it's
So no one's quite like making a living doing that yet.
No.
or
There
that-
are the, you know, like PvP, player versus player.
Yeah.
Those guys are all online, and they've made their money off merchandise and advertising and just getting the numbers up, and then that's the way to do it. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, but how many zillions of webcomics are there online that make no money? Everyone does it as a labor of love.
Yeah, bajillions. But I mean, what was the what's the one that was just? I always forget it. It's like a medieval D&D
the stick figure one.
Stick figure one.
Yeah.
What did it just get? It got like 1.2 or 1.5 million off Kickstarter. And I mean, the guy's been doing it for 10 years, but he was looking for something like 50 grand to print his graphic novel, which is a lot.
Yeah.
$50,000 to print a graphic novel is a lot of money. And to come out with, you know, 1.2 million or 1.5 million is insane. It's like, there's your 10. I hope you enjoyed those 10 rough years, because now you're going to have a few good ones.
So, any of you want to say what you're working on?
I'm working on a game called The Clown Who Wanted Everything, and it's about a clown who wants everything. So keep your eye out for that.
It's a tragedy, right?
Yeah, it's really hard to get everything, and he's really frail. And the more things he gets, the harder it is actually, because everything gives him like different superpower sort of stuff. So, it's complicated.
It's
but
a deep comment on the human condition.
It really is. It is. I've made a lot of games like that, really, and it all just happens accidentally too. I'm like, oh, I made comments on like sexuality and love, and I made like
accidentally deep.
Yeah, accidentally deep is awesome.
Actually, I'm working on a.
Caesar, please say Caesar.
If anyone wants to develop Caesar with me, I'm open.
That sounds awesome, honestly.
We can talk about Caesar.
All right.
I'm actually resurrecting my old webcomic, Super Slackers, which is kind of where I'm talking to a game developer named Andy Teal. So you've kind of spun me in the whole game direction now.
Excellent.
Yeah, I want to do one for every comic.
Where he wants to.
Good to hear.
He actually wants to do a side-scrolling adventure of this comic was about these kids who had superpowers, but they all had really lame superpowers. Like one kid. They're all teenagers, and one kid had the ability to turn his right leg invisible from a lab accident. So it's like, I can make my leg invisible. You can trip a guy running around the corner, but you have to take his boot off first. Take off his sock, hike up his, There's another guy who could fly, but he can only fly like an inch above the ground, and he had no way of propelling himself, so he had to wait for like a breeze. They called him the Wafter. Yeah, it was about all these really lame superheroes.
So it's going to be full of lame powers?
Well, no, actually, the comic, they never use their powers in the comic.
So you can't use them in the game?
They hang out, and they like go to the pizza.
It'll be like push Q to waft, and you just there's no Q buttons. You're like, what the f?
Exactly. We're doing a side-scrolling game where nothing happens.
So it's an
They walk around. They just walk around, and then they find they find money. There's a boredom meter that builds up. When you get bored enough, you like give each other notes. So, Super Slackers.
And I'm not really working on anything at the moment. I've just been sort of teaching myself new programming languages and such because I've just had a fairly big success. Analog A Hate Story, which is now on Steam, so it's doing well enough that I want to learn how to do new things. So I'm just sort of experimenting. Like right now, I'm sort of prototyping a racing game because why not? I want to do something fun and new. Well, let's make a game about cars rather than pretty girls and lots of words.
You like those words games, right? Barbarians win.
And I'm finishing off a game that I've been working on for about 2 years with Andrew Pilkew, who's the programmer I work with. I usually don't program. I usually actually am the artist on my games. We're finishing off a game called They Bleed Pixels, which will be coming out on PC on a large distribution platform that we haven't announced officially yet. But you can probably
that game looks really beautiful, by the way.
Thanks. And it's about being a little girl who grows giant claws and beats the crap out of things in an incredibly hard platforming beat 'em up. With lots of
very
little Lovecrafty
philosophical
stuff. Yeah. So, quickly, questions. So what aspects of comic storytelling are the most beneficial for game storytelling? Did I get that right?
I actually had a lot of problem integrating comics. We were supposed to combine comics and games, was the whole idea for this project. And I had a lot of problem integrating comic feeling into the game, and I just cheated by having it open with comic panels that you cycle through before it starts the game, like a little intro story. So I'm not really answering your question.
Yeah. Well, games are so different. It really depends, right? And I don't know comic terminology all that well, so I can't say really what techniques or aspects of it. There is a game actually on display there, not made by any of us, but called Storyteller.
Amazing
and
game.
It uses exactly what you're saying. It's basically you have to build a comic from the description that's on the bottom. And it's pretty interesting, and you should check it out. It's right next to all the other games.
It's arguably my favorite game I've seen in years.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's really good. It just won an award for being really weird.
Yeah, won an IGF Novo Award, which is basically the Indie Game Award for being really strange and unusual and unique. And
it's the most unique game I think I've ever seen. You build a comic, and there's a solution to the comic, but you can build it different ways.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah, I have to sort of make an emotionally coherent story by dragging characters onto comic panels, and they affect all the panels afterwards. It's really, really cool. And I think probably the best mix of the two mediums I've seen.
Yeah.
It made me very upset when I saw it because I'd only seen it after we started working on our game, and I thought, oh, this is blowing my mind with its high concept combination of video game and comic. So, yeah. And I was like, I got Elvis shooting people.
So yeah, that's Storyteller by Daniel Ben-Mogi.
Yeah.
Another question?
You guys of ideas. So how do you determine which projects you should carry on to the end?
That's a good question. I have so many piles of abandoned, hilarious comic ideas or hilarious story ideas, and
We talked about putting them in one book, like our those ideas that never get done, like Time Puncher.
Time Punch is pretty funny.
Punches 3 times.
Yeah, Time Punch is a good one.
And then you've got a bunch. You actually do it more often. Like you have Colin Farrell's eyebrows is my favorite.
Wait, can you repeat that? I didn't hear what that one was called.
Colin Farrell's eyebrows.
I did a comic called The Adventures of Colin Farrell's Eyebrows, and it's about how every night when he passes out, his eyebrows leap off his head and go on separate adventures in the city, and then have to make it back before he has to be on set in the morning and wakes up.
Okay, I just got the wrap-up signal, but if you want to talk to any of the game developers, we'll be over in that room with the games, and if you want to talk to the comic artists, track them down at their tables.